Welcome to the Boss Up Talk podcast. This podcast spotlights unapologetic creatives, entrepreneurs, and Black women founders who have taken the leap of faith. Boss Up Talk is here to help you find your creative gift, develop it, and build a sustainable lifestyle from it. In each episode, we'll discuss the mindset, habits, routines, branding tricks, marketing tips, business strategies, systems, and processes that help you make money doing what you love. Let's boss up.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Boss Up Talk. So today, for this Boss Up Talk, we'll be discussing side hustles. And I have brought on Feye, the side hustlepreneur, to discuss how to get started with side hustles, some tips and tricks, and we're just going to have a light conversation about it. So, Feye, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your business, your brand, and who you are.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Feye, also known as the Side Hustlepreneur. And basically, I just have a brand where I teach millennial women how to utilize their skills and their hobbies and their talents and turn it into income. Overall, I absolutely love just really encouraging women in particular to take those skills and those talents that they have, monetize it, own it, and really just grow. So I have the Side Hustlepreneur brand as a whole, which is the Instagram page where I share tips and tricks and things like that to be able to start your business, launch your business, and grow it. And then I also have the Side Hustlepreneur podcast where on that I share tips and tricks as well. But then I also bring on once a month dope women who are out here just killing it in the entrepreneurial field. And I also tie biblical principles to entrepreneurship on the third Wednesdays of the month. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, T.
Of course. Welcome. So I'm just so you know, I am muting your mic just to make sure that we don't have any like friction when it comes to, the streaming that we're using. So, I'm so excited about this topic because it's about side hustles. And if you don't know, I've only been a full-time entrepreneur for about a year. So for 6 years, I had a side hustle. And so I wanted to talk to Faye about, just how to get started and some tips and tricks. So let's start with this, Faye. Can you give me your definition of a side hustle when it comes to being a woman? Like what is a side hustle?
Absolutely. So basically, a side hustle is simply just a skill or a hobby or interest, anything that you are earning income on the side. And this can be as a full-time entrepreneur, you can have a side hustle. You can be a 9-to-5 working woman with a side hustle, but it's simply something that you are utilizing to bring in additional income to your everyday life.
Right. So I was reading an article earlier today about just the culture of having a side hustle or, the gig culture. So, in your opinion, why do you think it's important in 2020 to have a side hustle? Why is it so important?
T, I mean, I'm sure and I'm sure those who are watching know as well. Having one source of income is just simply not enough, to put all your eggs into one basket. We've seen what this year has looked like. We've seen what even last year looked like when we had the government shutdown and people were out of work for weeks. They didn't have paychecks. We saw COVID. So many people have lost their jobs. So it's becoming essential to have a side hustle. It outside of the fact that it brings in, of course, additional income, it just gives you that opportunity to, if you have debt, be able to pay off debt faster. It gives you that creative outlet. Let's say for like somebody like me who works in accounting, which is not necessarily creative at all. Having a side hustle, it gives you that creative outlet to now be able to touch into these talents and these hobbies that you have, but to also be able to get paid for those talents and hobbies. Because as women, we we sometimes like to be a little nice and be like, oh, I'll do it for free. Girl, I braid your hair for free. No, don't worry. Yeah, I know I make good peach cobbler, but I will make it for free for you. But now you're making 20 free peach cobblers, and it's just like, why? You can get paid for it. So it's necessary to have that side hustle because, like I said, at the end of the day, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. And what I tell my clients all the time is, imagine being able to say that if my job was to fire me today, I wouldn't even be stressed out because I have a side hustle that's actually bringing in reoccurring income for myself. You want to have that peace of mind. You don't want to be in a position where you're kind of like, dang, if I lose, if I end up missing this job, or if I get fired, I'll end up, not having anything. I have no money saved up. So the benefits can go from, just being able to save, being able to pay down debt, and, just so much.
Right. There are so many things that you just touched on that I totally agree with. So the first thing that you mentioned was having multiple streams of income. And I believe that that's so important. Right now, so I just turned 30 this year, and one of my goals has been to start creating the 7 streams of income on the road to becoming a millionaire. And I'm so serious about this, but it's so important as women. And although I'm married, whether you're single, married, whatever, it's so important to make sure that you have multiple streams of income to rely on. So that's the first thing, and I totally agree with that. Now, the other part that you mentioned was working in the accounting world. So I worked as a financial analyst, and it was very, very, very stressful for me. And so one of the things that I always thought about as well was, if they decide tomorrow that they don't want me here, or I just get sick or something because I can't deal with the stress, what am I going to do? And the other part of it is, as a creative, sometimes it feels like if you're not being creative, it's like your life force is draining or something. And so it's so important to have a side hustle that's tied to something that you're passionate about. And like you mentioned, like if you're baking pies, or if you're making scrubs, like body scrubs or something, whatever it is, like, stop doing it for free, get your money. And so that's why side hustles are important. But the next question that I have for you, and I guess the next topic that I would like to talk about, is how to get started. So it was a little bit easier for me to get started because my parents have always had like an entrepreneurial spirit, and I kind of just followed that track. But for women who may have a 9 to 5, or women who may be moms, how can you get started with the side hustle?
It's interesting you actually asked this question because I just posted yesterday the different stages to launching a side hustle, to actually building a side hustle. And the first thing is that discovery phase. Like you said, for some people, it's easy. I know for me, it came a little easier, but I recognize like so often a lot of people just don't know where to start. And the first thing that I usually tell people to do is assess your skill sets. Start from what's within. I really believe that each of us have been gifted with skills and talents that other people cannot duplicate. They cannot replicate it. So take a moment to start thinking about, what are some skills that I have inside of me that I enjoy actually utilizing on a regular basis. Another way that, if you're like, well, I don't really know what skills, I'm good at. Another thing to think about is, think about what are some things that you're frequently getting complimented on. What are some things that, people are like, girl, you really do good at this. Like, you are the best person who has ever done this, or you're so gifted in this. Like, what is something that you're constantly being recognized for? That will give you a good indicator of what are some things that you can actually do. Now, keep in mind, everything is not monetizable. So you have to be able to identify what's monetizable. Like, your gum collection that you've been collecting since 3rd grade, you're not making no money off of that. Okay. No one wants it. But having a clear idea of what are some things that people are already acknowledging you about, that can give you an idea of what side hustle you should probably get started with. And then also keep in mind just some things that you may have an interest for. Even though, we've all been gifted with skills and talents, sometimes YouTube University can teach us a new skill, and that thing will have you making thousands of dollars. I know I had spoke with one of my friends. She is the floral guru, and she was talking about when I did an interview with her, she talked about how she didn't take up like doing florals and stuff until the year she got married, which was 2 years ago. But the crazy thing about it was in her first year of business, she earned over six figures and ended up doubling that income within the next year. So my whole point in saying that is sometimes it's not something that we've been tapping into since we were a child, but it's just something that we have an interest for that we just haven't really mastered the skill set yet. And by you taking that, taking that first initiative to step forward and say, you know what, I have a real big interest for this and I'm going to learn it and I'm going to try it out. That can be your next breakthrough right there. So all in all, in packaging all of that together, if the first thing, like I said, is assessing, what it is that would be most profitable for you. But then the next thing that you want to do is once you've identified what what side hustle will be best for you, start generating an interest with people. Get an idea if people are actually interested in something, what it is that you want to offer. Because like I said, you might think your idea is like the greatest thing and you think somebody wants your stamp collection or your coins collection. And the reality is no one is looking for that. That's not something that you're going to monetize. So first things first, assess. The next thing is identify the customers.
That's such great advice. And I actually saw that post that you did yesterday about getting started. So I was like, oh, this is great. But you touched on so many things. One of them being, focus on things that you have a natural knack for. Or like you said, you mentioned your friend in the floral industry getting started because of the wedding. So it's like if you have natural gifts or talents or even things that, and I can relate to that because I DIY my wedding. So it was so many things that I created that I could actually sell and make a side hustle from. So it's so important to tap into things that you're good at and that you have a natural knack for. Now, the other part that you mentioned was also tapping into things that you get complimented about. And I believe that that's so important, especially if it's all the time. Because for me, I take it as that's God's little reminder that, hey, you might want to tap into this. And so, like you said, you could be focusing on something that you've been doing for years, like you've collected coins or you've always wanted to be, I don't know. But it could be something that you don't even think twice about, and it just comes easily for you. And that could be something that you could turn into a side hustle. So for me, it was set design. So when I first started as an entrepreneur, I was paying people a lot of money to take pictures, to do content, to do videos, all these things. And then I realized that I wanted to do it myself. So instead of paying people to do it for me, I would pay them and then ask them questions about how to get it done myself. And so because of that, I started to learn how to do my own set design for photo shoots. And people would just compliment me all the time. For years, people have been complimenting me about photo shoots, set design, and it was never something that I thought it could be monetized. And now I can monetize it. I've actually created a photo shoot box that I can provide to you, and you can set it up at home in a couple of minutes. And so it was just this year where I thought to myself, okay, this is something that I can actually tap into. So if you have that, nagging feeling in your mind or somebody is constantly reminding you, then you might need to turn it into a side hustle. I totally agree with that. The next topic that I would like to discuss, Feye, is work-life balance. So we talked about, getting started, and we've given, tips on how to get your feet wet when it comes to having a side hustle. But the other part about having side hustles that a lot of people don't talk about, and I think you mentioned before, but it's getting burned out. And for you and I, like I'm married, you're married, you have children, you're a mother. I have a pet. I have Jet, my dog. So I'm so what are some ways in which you can create a work-life balance so that you won't feel so burned out as a woman? Because we can do it all, and we will try to do it all. So what are your tips for work-life balance?
Absolutely. So, yes, I know the burnout feeling all too much. So much so that even when I was a full-time entrepreneur, I burned out to the point that I actually did not even want to work in the field anymore. Like I was working directly with girls and, just helping them build their like careers and all of that stuff, or discover their careers. And I was like, I don't even want to mentor girls. I don't want to be anywhere near it. So I know the burnout feeling all too well. So now bringing it back, what I'm doing differently in this season of my life is one thing that I do is on Sundays, I try to get an idea of the things that I need to accomplish for the week. So once I've taken that idea of, okay, these are the things that I need to get done, one of my mentors, basically what she taught me to do is start categorizing things by basically how many minutes you want to spend on it. So she said, you have your 10-minute section, you have your 30-minute section, you have your 1 hour section. So once you start working on these different things, you've already listed out your to-dos. So you can say, you know what, I'm going to dedicate 5 minutes to that. I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes to that. I'm going to dedicate 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is your categories are. Time yourself so that you spend focused time, undisturbed, do not disturb, type of time, getting those things done. And that's how I've learned to basically figure out the balance. Another thing is I usually have about like 3 things that I want to get done for the day. And I'll try to focus on like if nothing gets done, because like I said, some days it's just busy, some days my daughter, she's 1. So some days she might be bouncing off the wall. Listen, what's the one thing that needs to get done? If you don't get nothing else done on this to-do list, what's that one thing? So I encourage people to just be very clear about what it is, start drafting out like your tasks. What are some things that you need to do? And I think that'll help you, 1, with understanding where you need to be in your business. And then 2, also being able to just say like, hey, these are the things that you need to focus on for the week. And then if you are in a space where it's like, I just have too much to do, the reality is you can go and outsource your weakness. So you can easily hire somebody off of Fiverr, depending on whatever business, you're in. Fiverr doesn't cost that much all the time. You can hire somebody for $15, $20, whatever it is that you are like, what, this is going to take entirely too much time. Maybe you're not the best graphic designer and, using Canva or whatever it is doesn't work for you. You can pay somebody $5 to design whatever it is that you're looking for and know that that's off your back, So just being clear, like I said, with what it is you need to get done and then not being afraid to outsource your stuff will help you with that work-life balance.
This is such great advice. So shout out to your mentor for the method about how to prioritize your time with your to-do list. Now I have to-do lists. I have a weekly, plan. I use Trello, which is a productivity app that you should definitely look into if you need something for productivity. But that is great advice. I'm going to implement that like this week. I'm definitely going to start that. And the other thing that you mentioned, which was just, outsourcing. I am a perfectionist and a little bit controlling. And so it's very hard for me to outsource. And it has taken me until this year to say, you know what? I cannot do it all. And I know I'm not the only one. So I'm going to follow up with that advice and say, if you can outsource something using Fiverr, using your network of friends or peers or people that are in the same industry or want the same goals as you, then please do that, because that is going to free up so much time and allow you to spend it where you would like to versus, working. So that's great advice. That is great advice. So we talked a little bit about time management. Now, are there any tips that you can give on being more productive? So as a creative woman, sometimes I'm in a slump. Sometimes my creative mind takes over my business mind or vice versa. And so I'm out of whack, you know, and I don't feel like I'm being productive. So what are some tips that you can think of that will help a creative woman who has a side hustle or a family or a 9 to 5? How can they be more productive throughout the day, especially with Corona still outside? So we're home. So, how can you be more productive, especially when it's kind of easy to get into a funk or feel like you just don't want to do something?
Yeah, so I mean, I think honestly, the main thing is the managing your time wisely, especially as like a 9 to 5. Being in COVID, like with COVID going on, I know for me, I'm still working from home, so it can be easy to kind of just allow your work schedule to run over, but learn to start sticking like setting boundaries with yourself as far as like time goes with work and with business. So if you're working from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., that's your designated time to work. But have, even if it's just an hour, take an hour out of each day to just designate it to your side hustle, whether it's at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or when the children sleep, whatever it is, have a set time. So that way, okay, from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m., I am specifically working on my side hustle. Stay off of Instagram during that time. Instagram is, we all know Instagram, Pinterest, whatever it is, it's very easy to just be scrolling our little lives away. And then, you start getting into this space where one, you're drifting off at your homegirls, hanging out with somebody. And then you start getting upset because you're like, dang, this person's business is allegedly thriving. And I'm just over here. And it's too many emotions going on. So, to be very honest, stay off of Instagram when you need to work. Set the atmosphere for your space, because when you have that designated time, that you're dedicating 30 minutes to an hour. Right before then, take some time to really get into the mindset of what it is that you're trying to do and how you're trying to grow your business or whatever it is. That way you can be more productive in that time. Utilize the 5 minute, the 10 minute, the 30 minute. During that time, you only have an hour. Categorize your stuff correctly. Have someone hold you accountable. Actually just check in and say, hey T, did you I know you have mentioned that this week you were trying to get something done. Did you get it done? Somebody checking in. You can't be lying all the days of your life. You want to get it done, right? So, have someone hold you accountable if you need to have someone hold you accountable. Set those times, those designated times for you to get your work done. Set boundaries with your job and with everything else within your life so that you can actually begin to be productive. And, just like you said with Trello, Trello can help you organize things. Asana can help you organize things. Use whatever it is that you need to use to really have a clear idea of what it is that you're trying to do and where it is that you're trying to go. The reality is, for all creatives, like you mentioned, we get in those slumps. So it's just like, dang, I don't feel like doing anything, or dang, I didn't make a sale today, or I'm not growing at the capacity that I'm, supposed to be growing, or this is stupid. Am I tripping? Like, it's an everyday fight with our minds, and we really have to like silence the doubt in our minds. And so in order to do all of that, you have to just get to a space where you just keep going and you keep going and you keep going. But with productivity, like I said, just set boundaries with everything.
You're so right. You're so right about setting boundaries for yourself when it comes to time. Um, and you also talked about like the battle with doubt. So in Instagram, listen here. But at the beginning of the year until maybe about a month ago, I did so well with not being on social media, but still posting and engaging. But it can be very difficult to stay off of social media and not get pulled into that feeling of, okay, am I moving fast enough on my journey? Am I accomplishing things at the speed and rate in which I should be? Um, you know, man, this business is booming over here. Am I meeting the sales goals that is this, the right thing to do? So many thoughts come into your mind. And one of the things that I wanted to mention was the imposter syndrome. And so, and the imposter syndrome, of course, is, having that continuous feeling of self-doubt or feeling like you're not good enough. And as a Black woman, that's something that I believe a lot of us deal with, especially me working in corporate America, being the only Black woman in a lot of scenarios. It can be easy to fall into that pattern of doubting yourself. And so I would suggest the same thing, like set boundaries for yourself, not only for your time, because for me, what I did for years was I would overwork myself. So I wouldn't set any boundaries for time as far as when to stop working. I would get up at 5, 6 in the morning, or I can't sleep because I'm overthinking. So I'm up at 3 in the morning and I'm working the entire day. No breaks, no food, no. And it's because I'm like, I got to catch up. I got to make sure that I'm, accomplishing something. And so I just want to say, yes, it's cool to have a side hustle. Yes, it's important to have multiple streams of income, but make sure that you focus on self-care. Make sure that you're focusing on having that balance so that, and setting boundaries, like you said, so that you're not getting burned out and you're still being productive. Is there anything you wanted to add to that? So to close this thing on out, Faye, what are is there anything that you would like to leave with our cool girls about having a side hustle and the art of, having a side hustle? Is there any last words that you want to leave?
Sure. The main thing that I would say is, if you're in a space where you don't have a side hustle yet, find your side hustle. I cannot stress that enough. If you're in a space where you do have a side hustle and you're just at the place of like building, keep going. If you're launching and you haven't got those sales yet, just keep going and keep building. Figure out what needs to, figure out how you need to shift or whatever it is, but keep going. Side hustles are important. Utilize social media to your advantage. Like you said, it's very easy to get sucked up in the, in the dramatics of Instagram and, with Twitter and all these different things. But the reality is Instagram and social media in general has made people a lot of money. It's helped people. It's not just, there for networking and all of that stuff. You can monetize your stuff on social media. So take advantage of that. Promote your stuff. Don't stop promoting your stuff. Even if you're only getting one like, or maybe nobody liked your stuff at all, keep promoting your stuff. Trust me, people are watching you, but they are just waiting. Some people like to wait in the corner. They may not say anything to you, but they are waiting. They're looking in the corner just to see how long you're going to keep at it, or just to see like what you're going to do. You know what I mean? So keep going and keep doing you. I guess outside of that, I would just speak mainly, like I said, mainly to the beginners. The main thing is to identify your side hustle and just keep building, keep growing, keep going. And, you'll get to where it is that you want to go no matter what.
That's such great advice. It's so important to make sure that you're keeping, what you said in the forefront of your mind. Like, don't get caught up in, I'm not getting any likes, or, I'm not getting the engagement that I think I'm supposed to be getting. People are watching. People are eyeing and spying and creeping and lurking. And so it's important to keep at it. And so you mentioned, that advice for, new people, people who are new to the side hustle game. And my advice to close us out is for creative women who might have been doing this side hustle thing for a while, and you haven't, hit the monument or the, gotten to the place that you feel you need to be. Keep going, like you said, Faye. Make sure that you continue to have the mind of being diligent and making sure that no matter what comes in your way, you're going to keep fighting, to that path of success, because they say, overnight success is, some people say 7 years, some people say 10 years. It might be a little bit longer than that. And so that moment for you could be just around the corner. So don't give up on your passion, your purpose, your side hustles, any of that. And that's my advice for, any woman that's creative or period in life. So thank you so much, Feye, for joining the Cool Girls today to talk about side hustles. And please let everyone know what your social media is and how they can get in touch with you or listen to the podcast.
Sure. So, if anybody wants to connect with me after the show, one, thank you for having me, T. I really appreciate it. And I love the whole Cool Girls Create. I love the name. But if anybody does want to connect with me, you can follow me on Instagram at the Side Hustlepreneur. So think of entrepreneur, but side hustlepreneur. And then if you are interested in listening to the podcast, I'm available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, Anchor, all of that. And that is, again, the Side Hustlepreneur podcast.
All right. Well, thank you so much again. I had a great time chatting with you, and I'm pretty sure we'll talk offline. But have a good night, cool girls. And remember, 7 streams of income. All right. Good night.